We have an interesting day planned for you. We have lots of material, but we're not necessarily going to go over all that material. We really want this to be what you want it to be. My name again is Paul Heacock, and I've been a technical person in a leadership role for about 48 years. So I've probably, everything you're struggling with and everything you've enjoyed, most likely I've experienced it at one point in my life or not. I did put a lot of that in a book, which we're going to give to you during the session today as a takeaway. Also, you have a book here that has lots of material in it. Again, you don't have to get into that now, but we're going to go through pretty much what you want to do. This is my fellow facilitator, who most of you probably know. How many have been through the Profit and Cash game? Everybody. So you know his shtick, right? Kerry Phillips today. A couple quick things, just the general structure today. It really breaks down into 3 sessions. The first session is learning to lead ourselves. You know, the first person you have to be able to lead is yourself. If you are out of balance, if you are not as efficient as you might be, it's very difficult to lead people in that same direction. So that's the first section. We'll talk about that. The second section really is a lot about making the transition to leadership, valuing your leadership role. One of the things we'll talk about is very difficult to develop an unvalued skill. If someone is in a leadership role but it really doesn't want to be there, I'm not saying they can't be successful, but it makes it a lot harder. Makes it a lot harder. Then the third section is what we call potpourri of leadership skills. Kerry and I, we will do a little assessment. These clickers will be used at that time on a very anonymous basis for you to kind of tell us what leadership skills you feel comfortable with, what you don't feel so comfortable with. We also have an exercise we'll do with you, which is called an affinity diagram, where we will also, another way to kind of test what the sense of the group is. And then we'll spend most of the afternoon drilling down based on that assessment that we do together, drilling down on specific leadership skills. So the first part of the morning is learning to lead ourselves. The second is making the transition, and the third is specific leadership skills. What we really want to talk about, first of all, is the first person you must learn to lead as effectively as possible is yourself. Now, I'm not saying that you don't know how to lead yourself. What I'm saying is, I've discovered that I can always be better. And this first section is really based on the book that we've written. It talks about the similarities between being a leader in a business role, but also in a parental role, in a marriage role, or long-term partner. I'll call it a partner role. Some common sense ideas on how to get along better with the important people in your life, with all the people in your life, with the people you lead, the people you live with, and the people you guide. So that the first side of that basically has the quote that I mentioned before. Real human freedom is the ability to pause between the events of our life and choose how we will respond. If you get nothing else out of today, if you leave this room saying, I'm going to make more choices before I respond, I promise you, your relationships will be stronger. We don't use that skill. We're the only animal in the kingdom that has the ability to pause. And yet, we're also the only animal in the kingdom that blushes and has a reason to blush when we don't pause. In the middle is the basic acronym again. And also that below the acronym, there's kind of a graphic there that kind of tries to illustrate the difference between a reaction, which is acting before thinking, and a choice, which is thinking before acting. That's a powerful difference. And then the bottom quote there is from Somerset Maugham. He said, the greatest truths are too important to be new. And that's one of the things I discovered as I was going through this class with Pryor. Most of this stuff, actually I discovered most of it went all the way back to Dale Carnegie in the 1930s. He wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A lot of the theory is right there. The first person we need to learn to lead is ourselves, so turn it over to the second side. Here's a quick review of the basic strategy. Understand behavior and keep your balance. Remember what we talked about in behavior? It's often predictable. You really can't change people in the long term. Want to is better than desire. The greatest management principle in the world. What gets rewarded is what gets done. All those topics. Keeping your balance in both your professional and your personal life. Beginning each circumstance anew. Being situational. Watching the eye. And then the 3 C's. Communication, care, and common sense. The basic truths are too important to be new. We want to talk about making the transition to leadership. Now, you all are in leadership, so physically you're there. What we want to talk about is, and this is just a check-in for you, have you made the value switches? Are you valuing that role of leader as much as you can? I'm sure in many cases you've got some of these, but let's use this as an exercise to see where you are. Okay, well, what do you love about your job as a technical person, or as an underwriter, as a customer service person? What do you love about that part of your job? Just quick little sentences. Carrie's going to scribe these for us, but who wants to volunteer your first one? What do you love about your job as a technical person or an individual contributor? The non-leadership part of your job. How about one here?
I think it was going to be like root cause analysis, troubleshooting.
Troubleshooting?
Kind of the same thing.
Okay. What else do you have? Give me another one. That's a pretty good list. As I look at the list, it seems to me there's a little bit of blending of the of the leadership side and the technical side, but right now I want to focus on the technical side. I've done this question for many, many years, and I'm going to show you what the normal answers are, and let's see how they compare. The number one answer almost always, in one way or another, is direct involvement in problem solving. You have that there, right? As technical people, we love to solve problems. We like to figure out a way to write that business. You know, maybe when a competitor could. We like to solve a customer's problem. They got a billing problem. We love that, right? We all agree that's a really neat part of our technical job. The role definition, it's pretty clear what you need to do. You had the point here of the overall mission of the company, but in your technical role, it's pretty clear. In underwriting, we're trying to make sure that the risk we assume aligns with the pricing that was made. In customer service, pretty clear. We're trying to get those customer service scores up. Pretty clear role definition. For highly technical people, our measurement of worth is often based on our professional competence. We didn't have that one up there, but we see that a lot. Control over my personal development. Nobody said it, but would you agree that in your technical role, it's kind of nice not to have to be involved in organizational politics? And again, separating your technical role and your personal role. Being on the cutting edge, we kind of approach that, always learning, changes, decisions, always solving problems. Now, nobody said it directly, but this is one that often people will acknowledge.
Well, problem solving, I would solve it.
Okay, closure.
I solved the problem, it's done.
Yeah, in a technical role, that value is really, really important to most technical people. You know, it's done. I can move on. This case is done. The caseload is reduced, whatever. Same group. Question number 2, what were the payoffs for going into leadership or management? What were the payoffs for going into leadership or management? Okay, well that's a pretty typical list. Let's see what we've gotten from all the other classes. What were the payoffs? Additional money is usually mentioned higher than it is here, but that's all right. Chance for financial security is similar. Element of autonomy, we got kind of have that there. Ability to amplify your efforts, you identified that. Personal growth, you identified that. I think inside knowledge.
Well, the idea of meeting more people.
Yeah.
You expand the people you're dealing with so you have a better idea of what's going on.
Increased visibility and more control. Now, often we do this class for people that are either thinking about going into leadership or have just gone in. I think it's a real credit to you guys that you're thinking about both sides at the same time here, because some of your questions really merge the two. So that's either a good compliment to you or the culture that's here, or probably both. So here's the question. Did you gain enough, in other words, the payoffs, to offset the give-ups, what you loved? We'll call it later, crossing the threshold. In order to be the most effective leader you can be, you've got to cross the threshold. You've got to want to be a leader as much as you originally wanted to be a technical person. But realize that the characteristics and skills that made you good as a technical person may hinder your chances to be a successful leader. I'll give you an example, problem solving. You all mentioned that. That's something I really love to do. Well, as a leader, you got to do less of that on the technical problem solving and leverage, delegate to other people to get that done. Train them to do it. And people say, I'm not going to do it. It takes too much time. Or we'll go over later all kinds of reasons people have they don't delegate. The example I like to use is, does anybody have a toddler or grand toddler? You have a grand toddler. It takes time to teach that person to tie their shoes. But if you don't do that, you're going to have prom night, and some kid's going to come up and say, Mom, will you tie my shoe? Again, I'll use problem solving. Another one we talked about is closure. What's so nice about a technical job is you get something done. You said that, right? Are you ever done on the people side? Never done. You never get that sense of closure.
That's a big part of leadership, whatever is manage expectations. And we do change. We're going to talk a little bit more about change management, change acceleration process, but that's a huge part of manage expectations. We're looking at this in terms of business or whatever, but think about this, personally for me to lose weight, what happens is, this is the time. I'm excited about it, and I want to do this, or blah, 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 and I'm not going to eat this sugar, and
Yeah.
it's going to contaminate me, and so I go like 3 days or, thank you, I go like 3 days or whatever, and I get the sugar out of my system or whatever. Then what happens? Oh my God, this is no fun at all. And I do this, I look forward to Dunkin' Donuts, and now this is all gone, what do I do for the television, And then, there is that depression. And then what happens, after a period of time, you say, okay, well, yeah, but, and this is the fork in the road. Well, we'll go back to the Dunkin' Donuts, or I'm going to move forward, or whatever. But exercising, the whole idea about exercise, I'm going to start running every day, or whatever. What happens? Oh my God, I'm so tired. My body hurts. But if you can expect that this is what's going to happen, so you don't feel like the Lone Ranger when that does happen.
So let's quickly summarize what value shifts you need to make to be the most effective leader you can be. Some of you have made these shifts already. Maybe you need to just remind yourself. But as a technical person, we have basically a pretty narrow view of logic. It's our discipline, whatever that discipline is. Whereas a leadership, as a couple of you indicated, we got to widen out now, right? We got to care about corporate values, not just underwriting. We got to care about, when we get a case, we got to find a way to write it, if at all possible, as opposed to just saying no. From a technical point of view, we are highly specialized. As a leader, our generalist skills are more valued. As a technical person, there's relatively low social interaction needed, whereas as a leader, we have high social needs. Loyalty to the profession, our trade or skill, and what we need as a leader is loyalty to the organization. You go to a cocktail party with a bunch of technical people and you ask them, what do you do for a living? They're going to talk about their technical skill, not who they work for.
People here mention this, part of a bigger mission. The whole idea of objective is to keep people safe, part of a broader thing. They didn't talk about just about what they did. The whole idea, what we are doing is accomplishing something bigger.
Right.
And that is loyalty to the objective, to the mission of the company.
And as a technical person, you're primarily responsible for your own work. As a leader, your responsibility is primarily for the work of others, which can be very scary at times. One of my favorite expressions is every job in an organization should be done at the lowest economic level, consistent with the quality required. If you've got a senior underwriting cases that a junior underwriter could write, That's a misuse of resources in the organization. So what we're really talking about here is crossing the threshold of leaders. Your technical skills, if you let them get out of hand, can hinder your success. However, on the other side of that, many of your technical skills can be turned to strengths if you properly apply them. Leadership involves reversing powerful technical inclinations, details to big picture, from production to coalition and partnership.
Hard for some people.
Very hard. And seeing the positive role of solid human relations and support versus the time and energy that's required. As we said earlier, you may have to give up some important things, personally important things, to be an effective leader, and balancing the skills, and learn to delegate, understand the role of politics and power, and watch the eye. So here's the key question. Have you made, or will you make, the same level of commitment to improving your leadership skills as you have your technical skills? Are you willing to begin anew? And even though you're in leadership, are you willing to improve on it, to make the effort to improve on it? The big picture, leadership skills, make a value transition. What, why, and the impact of values. Understand how important it is to value being a leader. Address any vulnerabilities and build your specific skills. Things like handling change, critical thinking, delegation, execution. One of the things we like to talk about, most companies, many companies, spend so much more time creating a strategic plan than they do executing it. And execution is a really essential element that if we have time and you have interest, we'll go through. Giving feedback, oh, how important that is in your role as a leader. A lot of people aren't comfortable with that, though, giving feedback. And I read something once that just helped me with this. You have to realize that if someone needs feedback and you don't give it to them, you're really robbing them of the chance to improve. I mean, it's your duty as a leader, but it's also your duty as a person to help that other person. Now, how you do it is very important. We talked about earlier how important that is. Politics, communication. Oh, we get feedback twice. I guess that's how important it is. So we talked about first section of leading yourself, learning to lead yourself. Second section, really just an inventory of, am I the best leader I could possibly be? Have I made the transition? Am I valuing the unique requirements of being a leader? Now we're going to take a break. When you come back, is we've got a couple tools we're going to assess kind of what areas of leadership skills you'd like to talk about, or you need to talk about. And it won't be everything that's in your book. We're not going to literally follow the book now. We're going to jump around. But you also will find the book pretty clear examples of things if we don't cover something that you want.
Anybody ever done an affinity diagram? It's a very quick way to capture some information. A lot of times we did this at General Electric / Employers Reinsurance because we didn't want to have a whole lot of initial conversation, side conversation. We wanted to get some ideas out in a hurry. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to just show you this is a tool that you could use if you wanted to. It's a tool for us to get an idea of where we should focus on. And what we're going to do is, you got pieces of paper there. We're going to ask you a question, and we want you to write down on single pieces of paper your response to this, which is, the first question is, some of the challenges I face as a leader are, and just write it down. When you do, put it at the top here. We're just going to pick them up, all right? Don't put your name on it or anything like that.
One per
One per paper, one per page. All right, the affinity diagram. We've written these things over there. We put them on the wall. We did not even look at them, all right? All we did was put them on the wall. What we'd like for you to do now is get up over there and group them without saying anything. That is, just go over there and see which ones you think kind of go together and just kind of move them together. Once again, without saying anything.
Don't debate it.
Yeah, don't debate it. Don't even talk about it. Just move them around. Yeah, columns would be good. Put them in columns. Also, if you don't like where one is placed, feel free to move it to your column. After you pretty much got them where you want them, we have some slips over here. Just categorize the columns that you have. That kind of represents what that particular column is. Just put it at the top. Anybody can do it. You stand up here just for a minute because we're going to look at this for a minute. If we have 30 things up here, normally when we start categorizing them with as many people here, we will have 4 to 5 columns and then we'll have a few outliers. What do we got here? We got 1, 2, 3, we got 4 columns and we have a few outliers, all right? A couple of things about this to peek behind the curtain, reason that we do this, one of which is we want to get people involved without a lot of discussion. The other thing is a lot of times just make sure that people understand, do not feel like the Lone Ranger. You know, these are concerns to you. Other people have these concerns as well. Let's look at this. First one is time management. Time to develop, time for employees, spending enough time with each employee, getting everything accomplished, time to do all my duties I still give to my employees, what they need, time to do all I need to do, not enough time, organizing my time on non-technical issues, time limited amount, procrastination on this, some things I don't want to do, okay? Anybody see a theme? Delegating. Delegating, lack of delegation, fear or use it or lose it syndrome, enough delegating. Okay. Staff management, motivating others, differing personalities, came up a couple of times, different learning styles. Can you believe it? With the millenniums and the older people, a lot of different learning styles. Training, managing both field and office staff, new ways to motivate, keeping employees engaged and motivated, encouraging staff, giving effective feedback on personnel, issues, understand reasoning behind some of the decision, not jumping to conclusions. Okay, all staff members. And then goals. Goal setting and following them, prioritizing corporate goals versus departmental goals, absolutely huge. That's really big. Big picture of company and meeting all goals with limited resources, yep. Recognizing corporate objectives and how they align with departmental objectives. Recognizing what is best in the company and always what's best for the individual staff. Inconsistent enforcement of policy across company. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes inconsistency. And then meeting expectations. I said for myself, interesting. We have any outliers? Actually, we don't have any outliers. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all together. Okay. With regard to this, with regard to goals, where are you? Where do you want to go? How do you get there? And there's 2 questions that you really need to get clarity on. And they're from a consultant standpoint, and that is, where do you want to go and where are you? Okay, the example that I like to use is that I call up the travel agent on the phone. Bob's travel agent. He answers the phone. Yep, hi, this is Bob. Bob travels. Hi, Bob, I want to go on a trip. Great, that's what I do. Where do you want to go? I want to go someplace where I'll be happy. I have no idea what that means. I want to go someplace where it's warm. All right, I've eliminated a few places, but I still don't have much clarity on your objective here. I want to go to Miami, Florida. Got it. Where are you? Doesn't matter. Just get me to Miami, Florida. It matters a lot. It matters a lot for me to know exactly where you are right now. Because right now, the only thing that I know is you're not in Miami, Florida. That's the only thing I know, because that's where you're trying to go. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I know where you are, and I know where you want to go. How do we get there? Okay, now we can get down to work. What we'll do is there is a nonstop flight from St. Louis to Miami. I don't fly. Okay. We will take a bus. I don't take buses. Okay, we'll take a train. How do we get there? There's a lot of different ways to do that if you have clarity on where you are and where you want to go, okay? And then the whole idea is that that is where you are focused. You're focused on where you are and where you want to go.
I mean, time management, everybody wants time management, but guess what? Everybody has the same 24 hours a day. So you really can't manage time. What you can manage is what you do with that time. And in terms, somebody mentioned this earlier, but if you were an effective delegator, if you were less than effective as you could possibly be, and you could delegate better, that would free some time up for you, correct? Feedback, if you're really good at feedback and get people to improve their performance quicker, that could free up time. Time management is almost a result. It's a result of executing, of setting proper goals. A lot of times people have no idea where we're going, so they're ineffective.
Right.
So I think we can address a lot of that by talking about some of these other things, goals in particular, motivating others. How do we motivate others?
Just so you understand what we've been trying to do here is give you a general overall idea about leadership, what it entails, what you gave up, what you get, etc. One of the things that Paul mentioned very early this morning is an awareness of leadership. And if you can get to the point where when you are watching somebody in any type of situation, start trying to identify what are their leadership characteristics. How do they do this? One of the most important parts of a leader's job is passing on his experience or wisdom to the next generation of leaders. Do you expand people's capabilities? I travel all the time. A little bit example, I always tell people, I travel all the time. I've been traveling for 25 years now. During the course of the time I traveled, I've made every mistake traveling you can make. I mean, absolutely every mistake you can make. I didn't bring my shoes. I didn't bring my socks. I didn't bring my belt. I got on the wrong airplane once. I went to the airport a day early one time.
Recently.
No, it wasn't recently. That's the important thing. But I went up there and they said, Mr. Phillips, your flight doesn't leave until tomorrow. I said, I know that. I was just doing a dry run, make sure everything's okay here. Oh my gosh, it was so embarrassing. Okay, here's the thing though. It was a long time ago. And they're going to make mistakes. You don't make the same mistake. We do a whole one-day workshop of this. We're going to give you the first and last letter of this. The whole idea of how to establish goals. And some of you may be even familiar with it. And it is SMART goals. SMART goals are what? They are very specific. They are measurable. They are achievable. They are relevant. And they are in some way time-based, okay? That's what they call them, SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-based, okay? Are these following goals specific? Exercise daily and go without indulging in sweets. Well, sweets are candy and ice creams. Sweets are certainly not cinnamon roll pancakes, that's breakfast, okay? I talked to Alan Shepard one time at a meeting. There were several people there. And somebody walked up and said, he was an admiral at the time, he said, Admiral Shepard, I remember when President Kennedy came out and talked about his speech about, he was going to land a person on the moon. And Admiral Shepard said, and return him safely to Earth. And return him safely. That was very important to us astronauts, okay? Yeah, the safely to the moon, but return us safely to Earth. That was very, very important to us. When my oldest daughter was in preschool, I picked her up one time. After school, she said, Daddy, today at school, the teacher was cooking some popcorn in the microwave. She left it in too long. The room got all smoky. They made us go outside. I said, did the fire alarm go off? She said, no, it went on. She said, Daddy, why would you ask me if the fire alarm went off? I said, I don't know. Why do we do that? But the fact of the matter is, a lot of times the question why provokes defensiveness. But if your own company, if the question why provokes thought instead of defensiveness, then you will have come a long way. Why is provocative. A lot of times people feel the need to defend. You took a certain course of action, why? Whoa, okay, I'm being attacked here. And so you start rationalizing, as opposed to, And how is actionable? As a leader, a leadership tip here, keep in mind the answer to how will usually answer the question why. Think of it this way. In the fields of observation, chance favors the prepared mind. Louis Pasteur said that. My own personal favorite philosopher said you can see a lot by observing. This is a picture of my daughter Taylor. I'm fortunate back in Kansas City to have a swimming pool in my backyard. This is a picture of my daughter Taylor in the shallow end of our pool. This is a picture of Taylor in the deep end of our pool. And see, that is the problem. Anytime we focus on something, we have a tendency to magnify it, blow it out of proportion, if you will. I told you that I have a swimming pool in my backyard. That was true. I even showed you a picture of my daughter in the swimming pool. But it wasn't until you saw from a little farther back that you had a much better idea of my true net worth. All right. What are we talking about here? We are talking about, again, perspective. The relationship of aspects to each other and to a whole. Do you believe this? There's an adage that A people hire A people, B people hire C people. A people hire A people, B people hire C people. A people hire the absolute best people out there, okay? They really want to surround themselves with people that are knowledgeable, etc. Because in a management or supervisory position, there's a question. Do you hire people that are extensions of you, or do you hire people that have skill sets that you don't? And that is, the whole idea is that I would not hire anybody if I had more time in my day, because all I want these people to do is exactly what I tell them, okay? There's that way to do it. Those are simply extensions of you. Or you hire people that have skill sets you don't. Because there's always something to keep in mind, and this is a decision, a conscious decision. You can manage aggressively, or you can hire smart. You can manage aggressively, or you can hire smart.
Which takes more time.
And which takes more time, okay? Go through some of this information. If you go through it, I would encourage you to go through it within the next 24, 48 hours, because there's an associative component to memory retention. We remember things by associating it with something we already know. And if you go back through and say, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. And a big part of it, somebody mentioned this morning they liked the examples, but put your own examples in. I mean, that will really help reinforce, oh yeah, with regard to the relationship, yeah, I remember this one time. But just do it right now while it's fresh. Within the next 24, 48 hours, it will help reinforce the lessons. And this is something you can go back to. Again, as Paul said, we could talk about this all the time. Several of these things, we do one complete day on it. Several of the skills, we just wanted to give you an overview and then show you where it is in the book. I love to, in a situation like this, especially with, I like to quote Gandhi. Gandhi once said, live as if you'll die tomorrow. Learn as if you'll live forever. Live as if you'll die tomorrow. Learn as if you'll live forever. And especially in this day and age, you need to keep learning, because there's a whole lot of information that comes out. And be open to it. It'll really help you in your job. It'll help you personally. Anything else? Thanks so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.